Systems of measurement. In Canada, we use two systems of measurement, the System International de Units, SI, and the Imperial system. Although we use the SI system most often in our daily lives, the Imperial system is used in many trades. For example, plumbers and carpenters typically take measurements in inches and feet, which are imperial units. To work in the trades, you need to be familiar with both the SI and imperial systems. A base unit is a unit of measurement on which other units are based. Volume is the amount of space a solid occupies. So we can look at the base unit for length would be the meter in the SI or metric system, and in the imperial system it would be the foot or the inch. Base unit for volume in the SI would be liter, and in an imperial system would be a pint. Some common imperial units. For length, we have inch, foot, yard, and mile, and you can see the abbreviations for them in the table. To convert from one imperial unit to another imperial unit, we use a unit conversion factor. A unit conversion factor is a number by which a quantity expressed in one unit must be multiplied by to convert it to another unit. So let's look at how to do this. We want to change 5 yards, first of all, to feet. So we're going to set it up as a proportion. If we have 5 yards and we want to know how many feet that is, what we're going to do is you go to your conversion table, which you should find, and on there you should be able to find that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. It's important when you're setting up your proportion to make sure that the yards stay on the top and feet stay on the bottom, or you could do it the other way around. Now we're just going to solve this proportion. So solving this proportion, we end up with x being equal to 15 feet. This is not the only way to solve this problem, but it is a very effective one. Part B is to change it to inches. So again, we're going to start with 5 yards, and we want to change that into inches. On your conversion table, you should be able to find that 1 yard is equal to 36 inches. Again, cross-multiplying to solve your proportion, and we should find that x is equal to 180 inches. Convert 51 inches into feet and inches. So we want to know how many whole feet there are and how many inches are left over. So we can do it the same way and set it up so that we have 51 inches and we want to know how many feet. If there are 12 inches in 1 foot, cross-multiplying, we end up with x being equal to 51 divided by 12, which means that we have 4 whole feet. Now there's some inches left over, so how many inches are left over? Well, in 4 feet, we would use 48 inches. If we had 51 to start with, minus 48 means that we have 3 inches left over. Another way of doing this is to use long division and do 51 divided by 12. 51 divided by 12 will give you 4. Subtracting gives you a remainder of 3, so it's 4 whole feet and 3 inches left over. For changing now into yards, feet, and inches, I know that I have that 51 inches is 4 feet, 3 inches. From the 4 feet, I know that it takes 3 feet to make a yard, so I can break these 4 feet into 1 yard and 1 foot left over, and then I have 3 inches. So it's 1 yard, 1 foot, and 3 inches. Converting between imperial units, so this time let's convert 25.5 feet into inches. 25.5 is 25.5 feet, and I want to know how many inches that is. 1 foot is 12 inches. Cross-multiplying gives me 306 inches in total. Sometimes we need to add measurements that contain both feet and inches. When we do this, we're going to add the feet together. So 6 plus 7 is 13 feet. Add our inches. 5 plus 8 is 13 inches. I don't need the plus sign in there, sorry. And then we're going to look and see, are there any whole feet in 13 inches? And there is. It would make one extra foot, so we would end up with a total of 14 feet and 1 inch left over. The second example, again adding our feet gives us 5 feet, then adding inches. 9 plus 4 is 13 inches. 13 inches is bigger than 1 foot, and so our final answer becomes 6 feet, 1 inch. A pet shop stores 5 pet cages that are 2 feet 8 inches wide, 3 cages that are 4 feet 6 inches wide, and 2 cages that are 1 foot 8 inches wide. Can these cages fit side by side along a wall that is 30 feet long? There's different ways of doing this question, but what we need to do is we need to find the total width. So we have 5 cages that are 2 feet 8 inches, plus we have 3 cages that are 4 feet 6 inches, plus 2 cages that are 1 foot 8 inches. Now we've got different units in here, so it makes it difficult to work with. So what I'm going to do in my next step is change each of those measurements into inches. So 2 feet 8 inches is a total of 32 inches. 4 feet 6 inches is a total of 54. 1 foot 8 inches is a total of 20 inches. Now we can multiply. 5 times 32 is 160. 3 times 54 is 162. And 2 times 20 is a total of 40. Adding those up give us 362 inches in total. That's how much space the cages are going to take up. My wall is 30 feet long, so I need to figure out how many inches are in 30 feet, or I need to change my 362 into feet. So if I do 30 feet and I want to figure out how many inches that is, I know that 1 foot is 12 inches. Cross multiplying tells me that my wall is 360 inches long. My wall is shorter than my cage, so therefore my cages won't fit. Maxine is a finishing carpenter who is replacing the case molding around a double French door and the baseboards around the 4 walls of a living room. The dimensions of the rectangular living room are 20 feet by 15 feet. So if we label it on our diagram, we've got 20 feet and 15 feet. Tells us the French door is along one of the 20-foot walls, and the door frame measures 72 inches wide and a height of 84 inches. How many feet of baseboards does Maxine need? So Maxine needs to go all the way around her room. So if those French doors weren't there, we could find the perimeter of this rectangle by doing 2 times 2 walls that are 20, plus 2 times 2 walls that are 15 feet. This would give us a total of 70 feet. Now we need to subtract how big that door is. So if we change 72 inches into feet, we have 72 inches, and I want to know how many feet that is. Well, 12 inches is 1 foot. So I have 12x equals 72, or x is equal to 6. So those doors are 6 feet wide. So I want to subtract the 6 feet because we don't put a baseboard along the bottom of a door. 70 subtract 6 is a total of 64 feet of base. Part 2, or Part B, how many feet of case moldings is required? So case moldings are the moldings that go around the door. So if this is our French door, the case moldings would start down here at the bottom. They would go up, across the top, and down the other side. Our French doors, we know, have a height of 84 inches. So let's work in this one in inches. So this height is 84 inches, and the other side will be 84 inches. Across the top is 72 inches. So the total length of baseboard that we need then is 2 times 84 plus 72 to go along the top. So this is 240 inches. Changing that to feet, 240 inches, and I want to know how many feet that is. There's 12 inches in 1 foot. So we end up with 12x equals 240. So x is 20 feet of base. Case molding costs $9.50 a linear foot, and baseboards $4.50. These items must be purchased in whole feet. If Maxine's labor charge is $8.50 a linear foot, what will be the total cost of the job? So the first cost incurred is the cost of actually purchasing the baseboards. So the baseboards and the casing. So we know from our previous page that we need 20 feet of 20 feet of case molding. Those 20 feet each cost $9.50. And so we need a total of $190 to purchase the casing. The baseboards, we need 64 feet at a cost of $4.50 for a total of $288 for the baseboards. Adding those two together gives us a total material cost of $478. In addition to that, Maxine charges some labor. So she charges labor per linear foot. So the total footage that we have is 20 feet for the casing plus 64 feet for the base. So a total of 84 feet. For each of those feet, she charges $8.50. So her labor is $714. We also have a material cost that we calculated earlier. The material was $478, and the total cost then will be $1,192. Carrie needs to replace the wooden fence that surrounds her yard. She measured her property, and it is 18 yards wide and 12 yards deep. There's no fence in front of her house, and the gap in the fence at the front of the property is 42 feet, as shown in our diagram. Carrie plans to replace the existing fence pickets with 5-foot-long cedar boards placed vertically. The boards are 5.5 inches wide and will be spaced 1/4 of an inch apart. She placed an order for 275 boards. Did she order enough boards? So let's have a look at our diagram. So here's our diagram. At 12 yards by 18, her house is there, and so the gap is the fence. So that blue line all the way around is where her fence needs to go. This picture on the right is of what the fence would look like. So those boards are 5.5 inches wide, and then they have this little gap in here that is 1/4 inch. So let's figure out how many yards or how many feet. Let's figure out how much fencing she needs. If we go back up to our picture, if the total length of this right-hand side is 18 yards and her house is 42, we need to figure out this missing length in here. Let's change those 42 feet into yards. So 42 feet is how many yards if 3 feet is 1 yard? Cross multiplying, we get 3x equals 42, or x equals 14 yards. So the gap in her fence is 14 yards. If the total length is 18, means that this little piece of fence here is 15 yards. To figure out the total length of fence needed, we need that 4-yard piece plus the top, which is 12 yards. The left-hand side is 18 yards, the bottom is another 12 yards. So the total length of fencing is 46 yards. Let's change that into inches so it's easier to work with our boards. 46 yards, and we want to know how many inches that is. 1 yard is 36 inches, and so cross multiplying tells us that x is 1,656 inches. So this is how much fencing we need. To figure out how many boards we need to allow for the 5.5 inch board plus the 1/4 inch gap. And so we have 5 3/4 inches per board. This is the same thing as 5.75 inches. So we're going to take the total amount of fencing that we need, divide it by the 5.75 or 5 3/4 inches per board, and this gives us 288 boards are needed. Therefore, she did not order enough. Julie, a baker, specializes in wedding cakes. She would like to calculate the cost of decorating a 3-tiered circular cake with fresh flowers around the base of each level. The bottom cake has a 14-inch diameter, the middle layer 10-inch diameter, and the top layer had a 6-inch diameter. All 3 layers are stacked on top of each other without spaces. If the cost of 1.5-inch wide roses is 99 cents each, and the cost of 2.5-inch wide roses is $1.49 each, which sizes of roses should Julie decorate with to give her client the best price? So the first thing that we need to do is to figure out the distance around each of those layers. So if we start with the bottom had a diameter of 14 inches. So our circumference is pi times the diameter, so pi times 14, or approximately 43.96 inches. The middle had a diameter of 10 inches, so the circumference is pi times 10, or 31.4 inches. The top had a diameter of 6 inches, so the circumference is pi times the diameter, which is 6, so 18.84 inches. The total, if we add all 3 of those up, is equal to, so we're adding those 3 measurements up, 94.20 inches. Now we need to look at our cost. So let's look at the cost of the small roses. The small roses are 1.5 inches wide. So we need to figure out how many we need. So we need a total of 94.2 inches. We want to divide that by the 1.5 inch per rose. So we need 94.2 roses. Sorry, that's not right. I didn't divide that. We need 62.8 roses. We can't have 0.8 of a rose, and so really we need 62. We don't want to try and squish in the roses. For the large roses, we still need 94.2 inches, but these ones are 2.5 inches wide, and so we're going to divide by 2.5. Means that we need 37.68 roses, or again 37 roses. Figuring out costs, 62 roses times 99 cents gives us a cost of using small roses to be $61.38. Cost of using the large roses is 37 times $1.49 for each rose, so $55.13. $55 is less than $61, so this is your best price using the large roses.